So it's been an entire year since SpaceUK was originally exposed for hacking all of his completions since the Golden, including his verification of Slaughterhouse, his completions of Acheron, Abyss of Darkness, and Succuban Circles, along with the entire main list, catapulting the community into an era of change heading into 2.2. This past year has been quite eventful, as Tidal Wave and Avernus being the new top ones, the emergence of new top players, and of course, how could I forget, literally the release of 2.2. So with all that in mind, what would have happened if SpaceUK hadn't originally been caught? What if he was able to continue getting away with hacking, at least for the foreseeable future, heading into 2.2, and was able to keep his following and credibility within the community? If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and you'll see more content like this, and you can always undo it later. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first and most direct consequence of SpaceUK never being caught would be the fact that there would be a lot more trust in top players currently, meaning that there would be a higher chance that other hackers would be able to get away with it. While of course it's impossible to know who these hackers would be, it's pretty likely that bad actors would have somewhat of an easier time getting into the game and hacking their completions. Around the time that SpaceUK was exposed for hacking, he had already announced his verification of Banshee, the upcoming hard machine top 1 that honestly a lot of people have probably forgotten about by now. He uploaded a couple progress videos onto his channel, however these progress videos were the only available footage publicly of the levels, so technically we still don't really know what the whole level looks like. SpaceUK claimed that this was much more difficult than anything that had been verified previously, and it was his next big project that would take him lots and lots of time. For the purposes of this video, let's just say that this was true and it actually is much harder than anything verified at the time. Remember, this was before Tidal Wave was released, so it's technically possible that Tidal Wave would still dethrone this, which I think is the most probable outcome. If you really think about it, while SpaceUK was getting away with a lot of hacking, obviously, I mean he had been doing it for years, I don't think he would have been too keen on the idea of making Banshee so incredibly hard that it was like twice as hard as Acheron or something and would place top 1 over Tidal Wave. I think what's more likely is to stay under the radar. It would be a fair bit harder than Acheron or Avernus, but still probably around Tidal Wave difficulty, if not a little bit lower. While SpaceUK only ever got around 60% on the level, or at least claimed he did, there is another player who has 70% on the level currently, claiming that their version of the level is around top 3 difficulty, so assuming there weren't any huge changes to the level, this is probably the best assumption. Also, it's nice to see that this level isn't completely dead and forgotten despite the fact that SpaceUK was given the verification originally. So in this timeline, let's say that SpaceUK was able to verify Banshee as the new top 1 above Acheron, probably somewhere around May to June 2023. This of course sends shockwaves throughout the community, and SpaceUK, now clear of this, would probably at some point become the quote-unquote first victor of Avernus, claiming that it is easier than Acheron and Banshee, meaning that it would probably take a lot longer, if at all, for Avernus to be swapped with Acheron. This also means that Avernus would be robbed of its number 1 spot, just like a ton of other levels that SpaceUK permanently left a mark on, such as Firework, Hard Machine, and Abyss of Darkness. Other than this, the summer of 2023 would probably proceed relatively similar to how it did in our timeline. 2.2 would continue to be teased, Tidal Wave would gain hype around the community. Most likely, I think that Zoink would have still verified Tidal Wave, as SpaceUK is just coming off the back of a new top 1 verification, his second top 1 verification actually after Slaughterhouse, with Banshee, and Zoink was already hard at work with OnlyLink on determining the difficulty of Tidal Wave and how it would be released. However, instead of there being a 6-month gap in between Zoink's verification and Trick getting first victor, SpaceUK would once again probably close this gap significantly, perhaps even claiming to get first victor within a month of the level's release. You know, just for the shits and giggles. While realistically I do think the Banshee verification, or at this point his Tidal Wave completion, would be subject to much more scrutiny, and he would have probably inevitably been caught. Title of this video is What if SpaceUK was never caught, so I can't do that even if I feel like it's more realistic. So yeah, just going under the assumption that everyone thinks he's the Messiah and as written, release an Agaib, Tidal Wave's rate drama would have been much more short-lived, as it would be much more difficult for RobTop and other people such as the mod team to ignore the level's significance, as not only is the verifier a very popular figure, but the first victor has also gained a lot of hype around the level. And because this would have most likely taken place around the time that GD10 happened and the quote-unquote release date for 2.2 was announced, as opposed to the rate drama mostly recirculating around the time that 2.2 had been out for a couple months, there would be a much higher chance of Tidal Wave getting rated much earlier, not only cementing it as the final top 1 during the 2.1 era, but also solidifying Avernus's fate as a stolen, never to be recognized failed top 1. You know what, honestly, this isn't too bad. Another weird, more obscure, but still important side effect would be that Avernus would have never been previewed until its full release. Riot only teased the project around the time that SpaceUK was exposed to sort of give hope to the community in an age of uncertainty and cynical attitudes towards the top players, so he probably wouldn't have previewed the level before 2.2, as there was no precedent for him to. He probably would have just waited until after 2.2 was released and they did all the bug fixes and stuff for the physics changes and whatnot, so we as a community would most likely not even know that Avernus was in the works until much later. Perhaps Riot would have still chosen to tease the project around the time that GD10 happened, but more or less we generally wouldn't know that Avernus was even a project until somewhere of March of 2024 maybe, unless he were to preview it sometime during this past fall. From here on, things get more difficult to predict as 2.2 is out, and obviously things have only only gone so far in our timeline. We're still less than 6 months into 2.2, and Apocalyptic Trilogy, which seems to be our next upcoming top 1, doesn't seem to be terribly close to a release. However, moving forward, there would still be some key differences other than the change in historical events in the community that would have a permanent effect on the community. For one, I don't think SpaceUK was showing any signs of slowing down his phony career in the Geometry Dash community at all, due to the fact that he was verifying Banshee as the next top 1, and even when he was originally exposed for hacking a couple things, he only admitted to hacking 3 or 4 levels before he got further exposed for hacking things even as early as 3-ish years prior. My guess is that SpaceUK would continue to build a more and more dedicated and large following within the Geometry Dash community as he quote-unquote legitimately set record after record after record on harder and harder levels, perhaps even beating a 3rd top 1 as a 3rd top 1 verification, getting to the point where the entire top 3 are his verifications, just like Zoink did legitimately in our timeline. With his increasing influence, I think SpaceUK probably wouldn't really give that much of a fuck about the physics changes leading into 2.2, which would most likely lead others to do the same via community pressure as well as him leading the way. The reason I don't think he would care that much about 2.2 physics is, well, they don't really affect him that much, and besides, whining about how the game is harder now would probably contradict his image of just being the Geometry Dash messiah. I know I joked a little earlier about how, oh, this isn't so bad because Avernus was never top 1, which is of course kind of ridiculous, but I think that SpaceUK would only get more and more confident as time went on and he was able to get away with hacking more and more things, probably beating the entire extended list, perhaps claiming to beat every rated extreme demon, verifying his 3rd top 1 like I said earlier, gaining more and more and more of a following to be considered the best player to ever touch this game, soaring above legends such as Riot, Sunix, Technical, and Swish, and Zoink. SpaceUK getting exposed really taught us something as a community, which probably would have never happened otherwise, and as the community gets much larger heading into 2.2, this would have an incredible butterfly effect. We also learned a lot about what SpaceUK was as a person, given how incredible dishonest he was throughout the whole ordeal. I think people forget how stubborn he was originally when he got found out for hacking Abyss of Darkness, as well as a couple other levels. Perhaps he would have even gotten confident enough to teach a how to get good at GD class with Kai Guy and stuff. I mean, hell, he even worked with FMN04 to get a new PC to help him improve at the game or something. Honestly, I think as long as it fed his ego and fed his image and fed his bank account, SpaceUK would become a larger and larger leviathan within the Geometry Dash community, surpassing the levels of respect given to all previous community figures except, I don't know, maybe EVW, and of course RobTub himself, gaining hundreds of thousands and perhaps one day 1 million subscribers, all of this based on a lie. So yeah, that's what I think would happen if SpaceUK was never caught. I know it's kind of like a darkest timeline sort of scenario because maybe the community doesn't like literally die, but it's all built on a lie completely. Towards the end of planning for this video, I started to realize that this is literally just Dune. Oh yeah, and to clarify for like the few people in the comments who are inevitably gonna say this, if you think it's bad to bring up SpaceUK because it happened a while ago and it doesn't interest you, then don't click on the video. Alright, don't get mad at me just because you used to stand SpaceUK, alright? You've had too much spice. You know what you can do with all your newfound free time? Stand wpopoff. Like, he just completed Slaughterhouse 3 times in a row. That's like 3 times better than SpaceUK. Anyways, that's it for today's video. If you did enjoy, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, yada yada, you get the whole spiel, whatever. New videos every Friday and Sunday, except when the date is specifically April 25th, but whatever. So yeah, check out more of my content on the end screen cards now. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!